I'm going to move this a little bit
That's fine.
because I feel trapped.
That's okay. No, as long as you're here,
Yeah.
as long as Trent, you can still see him, that's good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Frank, be good, bud.
Yes, he gave me the thumbs up.
All right. So I'm gonna so this was thank you for this morning. I think that helped here, but thank you for leading that. Um, and so I wanna, and it's not an addendum. It's kind of an application because you guys kind of preached my message this morning. Appreciate that, Bucky.
Right here.
It happens every week, though. This the God just kind of orders that. And because my message, my text, and I'm going to go ahead and read that now. Is out of Matthew 9. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And he said to the disciples, "The harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord, who is in charge of the harvest, and ask him to send more workers into his fields." And so it's interesting the how the conversation led today, because really all I get to do, and the joy of what I get to do this morning, is I just get to put the exclamation point on the end of what you guys have already talked about. And so I want to be able to do that, and I want to challenge you. So I'm gonna challenge you, and then I'm gonna get into this text a little bit and give you some highlights, and then I want to pray with you at the end, because I think Corinthians, Paul talks about in the book of Corinthians, chapter 16, that a great and effective door has been opened to us. And I don't know that's ever been more true than now. And I say that in two contexts. The first context is because of where our world is. And I'm glad for passionate people in my past who lived in the 1990s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the early 2000s, who felt the same thing about their generation, right? We should feel the same thing about where we live. I'm thankful for men like D.L. Moody and Billy Graham and Martin Luther, and who felt that in their context of where they lived and the time period they lived, that it was the most important, effective door to them. And we have to, I want us to feel that same way. So I say it in the context of, the world's gone mad. But can I just qualify that really quickly for you, though? I remember my mom and dad telling me when I was a teenager, the world's gone mad. You remember like kids hiding under desks because of the fear of a nuclear attack, the world wars. I just remember it vividly, and I didn't understand it. I remember when I was born, my dad was in Vietnam. He wasn't even there. Um, so there have been other seasons and other time periods in the world where parents and grandparents and young adults said, I think the world's gone crazy. And now we're saying it again. And my point on that is this: we should expect nothing less with the world that is without hope in Christ. And the more mad the world becomes, and it gets more serious, I do believe that because of the broad range of what we're dealing with, the door for us opens up even more. And so I say it in that context, but I say it in this context too. Gene alluded to it because of what Trent said a little bit ago about rebuilding the church and rebuilding the model and looking at what we're doing. And I say that the opportunity before us is great because of the model that we're talking about. And what we did here this morning needs to be repeated around this county and around this state and in North Carolina. It's already happening in Africa. Bruce is doing that needs to multiply. And I'm going to challenge you in that. Gene, we talked about it last week. We talked about it briefly. You have been talking about it for months. Um, and I'm going to lead into my thoughts with this thought. I'm sitting in a room with people that maybe you don't have it all together. Okay, I don't have it all together. Okay, but you get it. You get that although you don't have it all together, God's given you grace to be able to get through the day and the moment and the next step, and that should create this massive gratitude with us. And so I want to prompt you today, and I'm going to challenge you. Okay, and I want you just to. I'm not asking for a yes or no. I'm challenging you to take this with you when you leave. That you are further down the road than you know. And when it comes to the rebuilding the church, when it comes to looking at the new models that we're looking at and how we're going to reach the most people ever, like you guys have the components that it takes to be able to lead that. It's not about me or Bruce or Gene or Preston. It's about all of us leading. There are people that I know that they don't have the gift of exhortation. They may have the gift of hospitality or the gift of organization. Those gifts are powerfully capable of leading people to Christ. The gifts of the Spirit, the gifts of God's spiritual gifts were given to us to lead people to Jesus. Um, my my family ate together yesterday, and there were the lady that waited on us was very unkind, and she had some stuff going on, and it was obvious that she was having she didn't want to be there. I know restaurants right now they're going through a lot, and and the service was horrible. But I got my kids there watching me, right? And it's been a long week for sure. And so we didn't talk about it. We went through it and we ate and we went on our way. And I was talking to my wife last night, this morning. There's something to be said for planting the seed of just being kind. I could have demanded better. I could have been like, you should be more kind, or maybe you should have, because she's very short and just tell she's having this horrible day. But there's something about being kind. There's something about understanding there's a bigger picture here. I don't know whether that lady knows Christ or not. That's what matters. I can be arrogant enough to expect certain things, and I think there are things you need to do that are right and things that you expect. I get that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying at the end of the day, what matters is what we talked about this morning. Is that we've been given this hope, we've been given this grace, we are alive. Thank God I'm alive. For what reason? Why did God give me another day? It wasn't just to go hang out and have fun. We're going to do that, right? We've already done that this morning. It's not just to connect with more people. We're going to do that. But all that precedes the big picture of it's our goal to lead people to hope in Jesus Christ. And all of you have that ability. And I want to challenge you in that. I know you may not feel like you're ready, or I don't know about this. You are ready, and God's going to use you in an amazing way with this. I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. Because in this text you're good, in text that we're using today, when he saw the crowds, and it's interesting his description. He had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless. It's interesting to me as the perspective of Christ. I'm going to walk you through 5 things very quickly. Number 1, he was moved personally. I can't be moved for you, and you can't be moved for me. He was moved personally by what he saw. It impacted him, and he who knew everything was moved by those who knew nothing. And when we talk about the big picture, when we talk about starting groups, and we start about precipice and reaching the world, that's got to move you personally. I can't move for you. I wish I could make decisions for my kids, right? I see them make decisions sometimes. I'm like, let me make that for you. And I'm sure my parents felt the same about me. But this is something between you and God when you have to look at eternity differently. This week, my family has looked at eternity differently. Most of you know, when I shared it last week, what was going on. One of my son's best friends was the officer, Ryan Hayward, that was tragically killed last week. We found out now he was hit by a drunk driver going 90 miles an hour. He was helping someone who had been in a single car accident, and just was helping one minute, was in heaven the next. And I know what Ryan is, right? Ryan, he's just, God said, you got 23 years, I'm taking you home. And I don't understand that, right? And I don't get that. And we celebrated him in the most magnificent way on Friday. It was a beautiful, honorable memorial of a coming together of thousands of people. And I'll get into that another time, but it was so moving for my family. But to watch my 2 older boys deal with that, because Ryan was over our house last week hanging out, and they were tight, we were thick as thieves, and for him to be gone, and that was a heartbreak for me, because I loved Ryan. I've been to Nicaragua with Ryan. I was in Utah. He helped us rebuild Tim's church in Utah, and he's one of those guys always went first, and he'd been serving he served in Afghanistan. He served in one of the hurricane relief efforts. He was a police officer for 3 months, and his dad's the chief of police in Zebulon, just retired about 6 months ago, and so there's a movement there in my heart for me, but to watch my boys walk through that is another thing, because I've never lost a close friend when I was their age, and it's been a beautiful thing. All right, it's sad, but it's been a really powerful God moment for my family. And it has redefined for me the urgency with which we must move in this group here for us. And looking, and I'm so glad you guys are here. And I know it's been a journey, right? And that journey has been one that that we will kind of watch you guys go through it, and it was a difficult thing, and we'll talk more about that later. But thank you for your example of loving Christ, and Bucky, some of the conversations we've had on the phone about what you walk through, and the statement you made to me about, there's a point at which I couldn't follow Jesus anymore. There's a point at which he just had to come follow me because I didn't know where to go. That's like you don't understand that until you walk through the valley like you walk through. Thank you for you guys' example, and we believe in you and we love you. And I say that for everyone in this room. I say it for Trent and all of the people dealing with in Africa, and Bruce in Hawaii, and Diane. And so there's been an urgency about my spirit, and it's been on the forefront of all my conversations with all my kids and my wife. We flew Alex home on Monday. I kind of walked through this, and so it just put me in a place where I look at his words about he sees them as confused and helpless, and I'm thinking we've got to go, and we got to go now. We can't wait. My brother had made a huge turn, and there he just flipped around completely the other direction now, and it's like got so bad, and it's just heartbreaking. So all these things have just kind of moved me to the point where we just can't wait. We got to go, and I think about the fact that Jesus was moved personally by that, and I want all of us to personalize the Great Commission. The fact that it doesn't matter what type of service I get. In some context, it does, right? Doesn't matter how people are, what matters is when they die. Where are they going to be forever? One day we're going to really get to see that. As we left the funeral Friday and drove to the graveside, there were people that had lined the streets in two cities, thousands and thousands of people with flags. And dude, it was like overwhelming. It just moved you, right? It was honorable for Ryan. It was very moving. You know what I thought about? I thought, man, what? I told my kids, what was heaven be like? You know, the crowd of witnesses, that story. And I don't know, I understand all that, and there's theological implications of what that means, Gene, in context. And I'm telling you, I told my kids, if you think that was amazing, right? The fire trucks with flags bigger than half this house hanging over the interstate. It was so powerful, right? And I thought, man, what must heaven be like, right? The entrance into heaven, to be in the presence of God. And so I think about that's what matters for us, being able to tell people that there's hope beyond this broken, confused, and helpless world. Jesus, he was moved personally. And secondly, he saw the real need. The people being mean and people being addicted and people cussing and people being way out of sorts with their lives, that's a symptom of a deeper issue. The deeper issue is they need hope. They need someone like us who's going to put all that baggage aside for a little bit and just love on them right where they are and say, I'll be here with you. I'm going to walk through this with you. One promise I made to my brother, and you guys know him and you love him, and all this stuff, and one day he's back and he's going to make, now he's completely going the other direction, and it was just brutal there for about 3 days, and Preston knows about it. I talked to him about it. I mean, we were on the edge of some bad things happening, and I said, no matter what, I'm going to be here. And it's hard because you want to grab somebody, right? And I can't. But what if Jesus wanted to grab me every time? I was an idiot. He would never let go. He'd just drag me around. And what the real need is so much more than what we see. And so Jesus saw beyond that. And then the third thing in this text is I love the fact that he shares the vision. And I love the fact that he goes here. He sees they were confused and helpless, and he said to the disciples, he looks to the ones he's leading. He says, "The harvest is great, the workers are few." And I think that was such a moving thought to me because Bucky, when you first brought that up this morning, I was like, I can't believe you just used my text. Right? B, I kept thinking about, in many regards, for us that have led in the local church, whether from a full-time position or we've kind of, by our silence, allowed that to be the case where the workers are few because we don't honor people like Sherry who kept kids all these years and And, I mean, God knows I don't want to do that job, right? I'd rather get it in front of 8,000 people than to keep 3 babies. So I don't want to do that. But we don't honor that, right? We don't honor hospitality. We don't honor people with the gift like Diane and Sarah that organize things. We don't honor that. We honor the one who everybody sees. And we honor the one who I'm gonna break the word for you this morning. Everybody's like, well, let me get around your coattail so I can get some anointing on me. No, the anointing are those whose hearts fully sold out to Jesus. The anointing is on the guy like Ryan, who gave his life protecting us and died giving his. That's the anointing of being fully surrendered. When Ryan was overseas, my boys would talk to him every 2 or 3 days online, and when all the stuff broke out with all the police stuff, right? They would ask Ryan, "You still like you sure you want to come home?" He said, "Man, I'm even more firm now that that's what I want to do." He goes, "I'd give my life to that," and knowing 3 months in, he would completely give everything for that. That's the anointing isn't just standing behind a pulpit speaking. It certainly applies, but it's deeper than that. It's being a mother, it's being a wife, it's being a husband, it's being a friend, it's being a young person that looks at a crazy broken world and saying, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my life to being part of the change that comes to Generation Z. I'm gonna be a catalyst for that. And so he shares a vision with them. We have a lot of need. There's a lot of the harvest is huge, but we don't have enough people helping. And the problem with that fact that we don't have enough people helping is the way we painted how that has to work. You got to go to seminary, get a degree, and become qualified. And I'm for that. Don't get me wrong. I think you should know what you're doing. I think you should read. I think you should pray. I think you should study. If you can get an education, go get an education. But it is not the pre-qualification for becoming a laborer of Jesus Christ. It's just not. People that have changed the world typically aren't the ones that have gone to seminary and graduated. And if you want to carry that even further, based on what Gene just said, if you're going to go to seminary, the reason you're going to seminary is so that you can better equip other people to do the work of the ministry. And and what I love about this story with Jesus, and that's not one of my points, but Jesus not only shared the vision, but he lived the vision. I mean, he modeled that in front of the disciples. This is what it needs to look like. And so I just want to encourage all of you today and tell you I love you and tell you that um, it's in you, all of you. I know you may not think that I'm not a good leader, I'm not a good communicator. Brian's brother Adam shared at the funeral. We had 3 people share, and it was the message, and it was myself, and then Ryan's brother Adam, his little brother, and then one of Ryan's other friends that was in our core group of kids that hung out at my house. And Adam came to me while we were before church started. He calls me Mr. May. I said, Mr. May, because I am not. He's always said, I'm not a motivational speaker. I said, Adam, nobody wants you to be a motivational speaker. They just want you to get up and share about your brother. And he goes, well, I hate crying and I hate combing my hair. And he made me do both today. So then just get up there and just share. And then I got to tell you, it didn't matter what Adam said, his little brother. What mattered is he got up and just shared how it felt his heart. It was powerful. It was so powerful. Um, and I'm gonna tell you something. This was moving to me. And I want you to hear me say this. This is why I say I love you a lot. I didn't grow up with that a whole lot. And I made it a point in my family and I have to share this with you guys. This is very personal. I always tell, I love you as a common phrase in my family, just has always been. And my wife and I made it that point from the very beginning. Um, I love her father. I love my father. He's a great man of God, but he's not very personable, right? So and when I go hug him, it's like hugging that door. He doesn't respond. He's just like, and then you feel awkward, like he probably wants me to let go and just hand it. And I love him for it. It's just, and that's not wrong, right? It's just funny, right? And so my wife kind of grew up that way. And so when we started hanging out and then we got married, it just all that changed for us. And so now we got 5 kids and we hug but saying I love you has been a very common thing in my family. And that can be awkward, right? Because it's a deep phrase. You don't just throw that around. It's a deep phrase. And and so my older two, especially this week, it's been a real common phrase. So we flew Alex home as quickly as we could get him home. And I wish I could have recorded. We've been too private, but I wish I could have recorded Alex walking, down the when you exit the airport, the walkway that you're not allowed to go into, and seeing him coming, and then seeing Blake seeing him coming, right? And man, their embrace, it was awesome, and it's what you want to see. And so Adam, when he shared about Ryan, he got up yesterday. Now, this was so striking to me. He got up and he said this, and I saw, and he told me, we talked about this a little bit, and I said, you need to share it. He said he wanted to share it, but he didn't know if he should. I said, you need to share it. And he said, I never told my brother I loved him. Not one time, never in person. He goes, now he knows I love him. They were thick, right? They hunt together. If you hunt with somebody, you guys, you're buds, right? And he goes, I never told him. And he said, he knows it. And so his admonition was, don't be trite with it, but be often with it. And so I want to tell you guys that I love you and I believe in you. And when I say I love you, it means I just believe you have the way all of you lead. I love it. And I think it's, we're there to say, what does it look like now for us? Let's move into this moment of reaching people in an exponential way. And the problem Jesus shares, there's a lot of need. There's not a lot of people helping with the need. And the church world, we've kind of helped create that a little bit. God forgive us. But I don't want to live there, right? I don't want to live in, oh man, we didn't really. No, let's go change it. Let's do something about it. Let's open up our homes and just love people. Let's just be very forward with our kindness and the fruits of the Spirit. And then the fourth thing, I'll just watch you stare. This phrase here stuck out to me when I was reading this. Understand the power of God. Look at this statement. The harvest is great, but the Lord is few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. I'd read that phrase, but I never really thought about the fact. Because in this phrase, the harvest is typically, the implication of the context is the harvest of lost people. The harvest is great. What does that mean? The people that need what we have is great. It's huge. I read an article last night that said that the article was late, like 2018, 2019. So it's not current to 21, but it's probably still close. That there's still of the 7.5 billion people in the world, there's still 4.5 billion lost people. It's a great harvest. And this phrase struck me. Pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. The heart of the king is in the hand of God. And he turns it however he chooses. Do you know why I think maybe our harvest in the church isn't greater? I'm just going to be really trite, seemingly trite. It's not. It's very simple, but it's deep. Do you know why I think the harvest isn't as great in our churches? Because we haven't asked for it. We haven't said, God, bring lost people our way. Because lost people don't fit into our culture. They don't fit into our box. They don't fit into our protocol. They don't fit into our bureaucracy. And so we get around someone who drops F-bombs and has addictions, and we create this scenario where they're uncomfortable being a part of that. I'm not saying we approve of that. I'm tired of even having to defend that anymore. It's silly to have to defend that. But I'm saying we have to love them where they are. And Christ can bring them to us if he knows that, listen, Christ will send them to us if he knows that he can trust us with them. I had a guy criticize me, Preston, when I was out in Vegas for not going on a date night with my wife for 2.5 years. Like, there's nobody here I know. Who am I going to leave my kids with? I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 5, 2, and then a 1. I can't leave them. I don't know anybody. I'm not going to leave my kids somebody I don't trust. We just take them with us and put them outside the restaurant. Hope they're okay. That's not a true story, by the way. Can God trust us with them? That's like the harvest. There's 4.5 billion lost people, and the church just becomes more subculturist every day. And here's how we got to do this. And then I realized I got to understand the power of God. You mentioned it this morning about being discerning on when do I say something to somebody. Diane's point is well taken. I don't want to push too hard. Or when do I give the gospel? I've been friends with this guy for 2 months. Maybe it's not time yet. I've been friends with this guy for 10 years. Maybe I need to say something. How do you know that? God will let you know that he's the Lord of the harvest. His power is enough to move their hearts. There were hundreds and hundreds of people that gave their life to Christ Friday. And I told my older two, I said, let's not wait till another friend dies to make a point to go love on him. And this wasn't just the Lord God allowed this and permitted it, and we're going to run with it for sure. It's a rare thing. 23 years old. I said, but guys, we got to be about this every day. God's moving in the lives of people around. People looking, if they're ever been looking right now, it's now. They're looking for hope. The harvest is huge, and all of us are laborers. We don't feel approved or qualified. Or the church has been like, if you can speak well, then you can do that. Or if you can sing well, then maybe you can bear a lot of fruit. Man, are you kidding me? If you love well, you can bear a lot of fruit because the people are everywhere. And I'm gonna share this with you. This is personal too. Um, we talked about my prayer list. I had 5 people on Friday who I hadn't seen in years pull me aside just because it was a gathering of people from a lot of different contexts of my life. And you know what they brought up? They brought up the prayer list. I said, I'll never forget talking about praying for a list of people. And I told you guys last Sunday that I had paused on that just because it became more about the fact that I was doing it than about the fact that it was important. And that bothered me. And I told Eric, I was so convicted by that. I've talked about it so much that that's what people talk about. And I don't know if anybody's praying. So I just paused. And then I picked it up on not this past Monday, but a week ago, the Monday before Ryan passed away Sunday morning. The previous Monday, God just put it on my heart again. And then that morning, I pulled out my list of probably 1,200 people and I started praying through their names. I'm going to tell you why in a minute, and then we'll come back to that. Thursday morning, 3 days before Ryan died, I have a list of young people. You guys are on that list. Your boys are on that list. If they're young, your kid, they're on the list. Nick's on the list. There's a group of young people right there in the middle that I prayed for, and I prayed through them on Thursday morning, and I got to the end, and I don't know why. I didn't know. I know why now, but at the point, I didn't know why. But I just thought, is Ryan on my list? I thought, I know he is. Certainly Ryan. I've been all over the world with him. So I went back up and I thought, there he is, and I saw his name. I just had, you don't remember because there's so many, and I just prayed for him again, little knowing that 3 days later he'd be in heaven. And can I just tell you something? Um, when I call somebody's name out, I have a conviction in my soul of a couple things. Most of them I don't know personally. Can I just make another point? Most of the people you think you know, you don't know. Okay? So most of the people I don't know personally, the people I do know personally, I really don't know personally. Thirdly, I don't know where they are in their life, what they're going through, what they're thinking about that morning if they're asleep. When I pray over my kids, I pray for me first, and then I pray for my wife, and then I pray for my kids, and I have a paragraph that long. I just pray, and I imagine where they are, and I pray over them. Most of the time, they're still asleep. Um, and I pray over them, and I see them in my thing, and I pray for them. But then as I go through my list, I have a conviction that I don't know where they are, and I don't know what they're going through. God does. Praying for you guys when you're gone and the time zone's different. God, I don't know where they're what they're doing. They could be drinking coffee, they could be asleep, they could be on the beach, they could be out for dinner, could be hanging out with Bruce. I don't know. But God knows. When I say God angel, he knows. And I believe when you do that, I am demonstrating that I believe that God knows enough that he's going to move in their life without me knowing all the details. That I have enough faith to say, God, here's Sarah and there's Steve, and I know what they're going through right now. I lift them up to you. I don't know what their day's like, but God's like, got it. I believe he honors it. And I believe there'll be fruit for that. And I told my kids yesterday in the car because one of the kids made a comment about the lady that waited on us. It wasn't negative. It was just like, she might be having a bad day. And I was like, for sure. And kindness, the fruit yesterday was kindness. The seed yesterday was kindness. There was no, I didn't share the gospel with her because I couldn't even ask for a straw because I knew that would go bad. So I just thought it was just going to be kindness today. God knows. He's powerful enough. He runs the harvest. He's in charge of not just, we act like he's not the Lord of it. He's the Lord of everybody. Some have just chosen to give their hearts back to him. Most of the harvest has not given their heart back. He is still the Lord of them. They just haven't yielded and surrendered back. And at the end of time, there's consequences for that. And that's why we are alive. And that's why we are running with what we're running with. And then lastly, prayer. and I firmly believe this, is the way to 1 million souls. And that's a, I don't mean literally 1 million, but prayer is the way to people, changing people's lives. And I think it's interesting. And he said, disciples, pray to the Lord who's in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his house. My wife plays the piano, and Brendan plays the piano. And Alex and Blake play the guitar. Luke sings. And Jade bakes, and I watch the Dolphins. And it's funny because every now and then when Erica and Brendan are in the piano room playing, I'll walk by and I'll listen a little bit, and Brendan like, Dad, is this a C? Or he'll be funny, right? I'll be like, I think it's a D minor in the, and it's funny, right? And so when they're in there having conversations, listening to the conversations, I have no clue what they're talking about. But they're on the same wavelength because they're in the same context, right? They just get it. And so when I think about different things means different things to different people, I think about the fact that prayer is the way to 1 million souls. And I want you to hear me say this. It's not about, we don't need more pastors. I always want people to surrender in ministry if that's what God called them to. We need people that will pray the harvest, and people that it starts there. It starts with you, and everyone can do that. All of us have that calling. And when we talk about the harvest, it's always implied that the harvest has got to be done in this way. And if we've learned anything from him, it's not. There's not Jesus was when he came, he obliterated protocol.
Wow.
And said, the law, I'm here. You don't need the law. Well, they said obey the law. I fulfilled the law. Finally someone arrived who had been perfect. And it's no irony that the one who was perfect is now going to give his life for everyone who's not perfect, who can't do the law. So you know what? We don't disregard it, but it is fulfilled, and now we live by grace. And he says, now run with that. All of you run with the power of that grace. And so I want to challenge you to call to pray. And we were at the graveside, and I was so moved. I've never been to a service on the graveside where someone who was a police officer or a war, it's powerful. I can't even, the emotions of it are still raw with my family. And if you'll forgive me, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go hang with my family somewhere. I'm going to try and get my son back to California. He doesn't want to go back yet, and it's been a very special time. Matter of fact, side story. This is not important to you, but I will share it because it helps me to share. Blake had a football game yesterday. He didn't want to go. His birthday was also Monday. He didn't want to go out. It was Monday, and he did not get up all day Sunday after. He woke me up by my bedside at about 4:30 on Sunday morning, just bawling, and I didn't know what had happened. And he laid on the couch in his bed all day Sunday, and we let him. And but you know how mamas are, right? Erica's like, we can't let him lay in the bed all day tomorrow. Tomorrow's his birthday, and so Monday morning we get up, and she goes in there, and I'm actually getting to the football game, so give me a second. And she goes in there, and he's like, I'm not getting up. I'm not going out. I don't want to have a birthday. And his mom is like, he needs to have a birthday. And I know, and she goes, but I don't know what to say to him. She said, so you're up. So I went in there and sat in his bed, and he's got the blanket over his head. I said, Blake, we need to do something. Because I'm not getting up. I'm not going as I can. I understand as much as I can from my perspective as the father and as this mentor of Ryan's. And I said, let me ask you a question. He said, all right. I said, what would Ryan want you to do? Well, what would he want you to do? And he pulled the blanket and he goes, that's an unfair question. Right? So I said, dude, get up, go get in the shower. Let's bust this joint and go hang out. So we went out and celebrated his birthday. But we laughed and we cried. And so after the funeral on Friday, we were there. It was about a 6-hour process of getting there early, meet the family, then the service, and then the procession. And it was just beautiful. honorable time for him and for Jesus. And he was in the middle of Ryan's life. Blake said, I don't play football. And then I told him, I said, you don't have to go if you don't want to. If you don't want to go tomorrow, I get it. And so we talked about it Friday night, then Saturday morning. I said, what do you want to do? And he goes, I don't know. I said, well, Ryan, what do you do? And he said, I already know the answer to that question. I said, well, let's go get your home. So we took a pen. The blue and black, ribbon. On his towel. And I said, just go have fun. And anyway, and his team didn't know. He didn't want his team to know until the end of the week. So the coach just told all the players Thursday night at practice. Anyway, so he goes and Alex is in town. And I had one prayer that God would let him score a touchdown. That was just that would be neat, to be able to. So they're playing a really good team, and it's just the details are important. But they've run this one route where the outside receiver goes up and out, and Blake sneaks in behind him and goes for a long pass. And I saw him line up, and I told Alice, he's going to score. This is going to be it. And sure enough, they threw it over the top, and he catches the ball. I was standing with his mom and his brother. Boom, right there. And it was the first time I'd seen him kind of just light up, and we all knew what we wanted him to be able to do. That was for him. That was his way to be able to celebrate Ryan a little bit. So he scored, and then we celebrated. And after the game, they gave him the game ball, and it was a really neat time, right? And so, and what I told you guys last Sunday, and I'm gonna say it again. If we'll go through all that and be just moved for a 23-year-old guy who gave his life to protect us in the line of duty, how much more should we be doing for Christ? And Gene, thank you for doing this morning. Very thank you. And I mentioned this last Sunday, and I've got to be honest with you, it crossed my mind once or twice, but I never reached out. And Gene, I know it deserves more than what you did, especially the way you do things. So thank you for sharing that text with us. And so as I close, these are powerful moments for us. Having you two back in light of all that's gone on is a powerful moment for us. Having Trent, having you here hanging out with us, and having Bruce, who's speaking now in Africa, is already done with their services. And this is a powerful moment for us. And my question to you as we leave is, how are we going to honor Jesus? How are we going to honor his death and burial and resurrection? And it's by do this in remembrance of me, right? That's how we honor that. But what do we do now? And my closing words at Ryan's funeral were, in our tears we will remember him, but it is in our actions that we will honor him. And I say that to you. What are we going to do now? I'm ready. My family's ready. I know you guys are ready. And now I'm going to say this as I close. This is a beautiful story. This is a beautiful text. Bucky hit it before we ever got into it. Preston's been talking about it every time he gets up. But the action on that is going to take a lot of faith. And some of you may not feel like you're ready. You're not ever going to be ready. You may be like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do it either. But you know what? There's 4.2 billion people who need us to try. Who need us to say, I'll do whatever it takes. I remember, I'll close with this. When we went to Vegas, didn't know anybody. By ourselves, we go out there and we're sitting in a casino, restaurant in the casino. I'd never been in the casino. Lost both my dollars. Terrible. Right. And we're sitting in a little breakfast diner, and we just told the Gold Coast Casino, and Eric's parents had just flown out, and that they were still uncertain about the idea if this was even biblical. And so they leave, and so Eric and me are sitting in this little diner inside this casino, and she's sitting across from me. And Alex is 4, and Blake is 2, and they're playing their car. I have no clue what's going on, right? They just want to know what the big flashing machines are. I'm like, don't go near them. They're playing with their cars, and Eric and I are eating breakfast, and man, we're just crying, right? We're all alone, like everyone's gone. We don't know. There's 3.5 million people in Vegas, and we don't know a soul. And that's when you're like, all these ideas I've had that I think are going to work, and I'm thinking, I hope they work because we're here, and we're eating, and we're crying, and we're eating. And the house is like, Mom and Dad, you okay? I said, we're fine. These are tears of joy. And I'm like, these are tears of, I am completely freaked out of my mind right now. What have we done? And we're eating. And I look up, and this couple is standing at our booth, and they just sit down, and they just scoot in. I mean, like he's touching me. Like, I'm like, what the heck? Started getting weird. We don't want any. And as she scoots over there beside Erica, and the man scoots in beside me, and no words, just sat down and scoot in. And the lady said, we've been watching. And we're Christians, and we don't know who you are. And we don't know why you're here, and we don't know what your story is. But we know you're supposed to be here. Now, mind you, they have no clue who we are and what we're doing. He's a plumber. He owns a plumbing business. And we just want to let you know, whatever you got going on, God's bigger than that. Amen. And he's got you in the center of his hands. How Destin got up in lives. I don't know who they were. I'll see them again in heaven one day. That's all I needed for my fuse to be lit again, to say, let's go do this. And I'm saying that to you. We've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. We've all been through a lot. You guys went through stuff long before I ever got here. And then we got together, and we've been through a lot more since then, right? Walked away from normalcy in the building, and I would dare say if we hadn't done that, we'd never met you guys. Never met Trent. Bruce we've always gonna love on Bruce, right? He's easy to love on, but to bring Bruce fully back in, and then for me to be able to say to you, not me, but us, to say to each other, let's go lead. I'm not good at it. You don't have to be good at love. Just care and be kind and step out in faith and let God lead that way. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be different. It's going to be new. It's going to be worth it. I'll close with this for the third time. I told my boys that Ryan is 23 years. God knew all of it. He already knew that. I don't know why. I can't explain to you. My three little ones have been the ones that have been the hardest. Because they don't, Luke, he doesn't understand. He's like, is he coming back? And I know he's not coming back. He's gone. And they were tight with Ryan, because when Ryan come over and hang out with my older two, Jaden was always baking him cookies, and Luke was always flipping for him, and he just made him feel like part of the older group. And so it was just an non-understood revelation to Luke that he's like gone, like not coming back. I'm trying to explain to 11-year-old that we're going to see him. So, but my older two get it. He's not. We stayed all the way till they lowered the casket into the ground, and his group, that group of guys, would not leave. They had to ask them to leave, and it wasn't a mean they were just like they didn't want to hang out. And Blake came over to me and he said, "You know what, Dad? I'm okay sitting here watching them lower that casket in the ground." I was like, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I know he's not in there. Right. He's up there." I said, "That's right." And he's 23 years ago, lived well, and now we got to go. Now it's our job to go carry this vision forward. And I want to use this moment to be able to urge myself forward, right? And to say, let's go change the world. And so I told Blake that. I told Alex this. When Alex left to go out west, it was a step of faith for sure, because he didn't know where he was going or what he was doing out in California. And now he's met a girl. They're serious. This is new news to us, right? New stories for us. But it's like he told me yesterday on the side of the football field. He goes, "Dad," he goes, "That's funny." He goes, "Dad, we're serious." He goes, it's like real serious. We'll get into that another time. And he said, "I just want to make sure you're good with that, right?" Of course I am. I want you to go live your life, and I want you to go run. And I'm gonna tell you this: he'd have never met her. He'd never be where he was if he hadn't gotten that security line at 18 years old and walked away from everything to go to somewhere he'd never been, to people he'd never met. It was a huge step of faith for him. We are there, and God, all or not, take that to go. 4.2 billion people waiting on us. And I'm the biggest critic of the local church. I am. I feel like I have a right to because I'm in it. I'm involved with it and I helped it get to where it shouldn't be. Now I get a chance to flip the script and say, now I want to be what Jesus intended for it to be. And we're going to go, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be a step of faith. God's going to use it to reach thousands and thousands of people. And if that's not the case, I'm going to die trying. I'm going to tell you that right now. I love you guys so much. Thank you for loving on my family. Thank you for listening to this message. Let me pray, and then, Gina, we'll put it back to you. Father, I love you. God, thank you that you, I'm so glad for my brother. I know he's struggling right now. But I'm so glad that he called me those years ago and said, I got a group of people you need to meet. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm humbled by it. I'm thankful for it. And I am stoked about it. And God, we don't always get it right. So we kind of leave that at the altar, so to speak, today and say, God, take my mess, take our missteps and our past and all of our complacency and lack of action and hiding behind the bureaucratic processes. God, forgive us for treating your death and your sacrifice and your resurrection like a crutch on Sunday mornings. And I pray that you would move in my soul down deep in places that have not been touched, to explode with passion for the Great Commission, to step out in faith and say, God, all for you. Thank you for all that you're doing in our lives right now. I know there's needs in this room. I pray for Bucky's continued healing. Thank you that they're with us today. I love them. I know that all of us have things we're dealing with. Steve's not with us. I know he's dealing with his dad, and Sarah's definitely dealing with situations that are just, you can't put words to them. And we all have that. And for each situation, I just pray that you help us to embrace it for the cause of Jesus. I love you. And I give this time to you and I pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ. And all God's people said, amen.